This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Dignity Memorial, caring for our communities with a network of funeral homes and cemeteries in Virginia and throughout North America. More information about Dignity Memorial's providers is online at dignitymemorial.com.
Alpha Natural Resources. Consistent with its running right process, Alpha is an energy company committed to being a leader in mine safety and an environmental steward. We fuel progress around the world. More information at alphanr.com.
The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, working in legislative, regulatory, and political arenas to promote the free enterprise system. Information at vachamber.com. Virginia hospitals and health systems provide jobs. They support our economy and promote public health. Local hospitals are always open to help people with unexpected health needs. Having a stable healthcare network is vital. Virginia hospitals are our lifeline.
I just received a letter from a student who thanked me for instilling the love of math in him. That's why I teach.
Brought to you by the Virginia Education Association, because a good education is good for everybody.
Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.
Welcome to This Week in Richmond, and welcome back to Commissioner John Newby, Veterans Services. We very much appreciate your being on here around the time, particularly as people are seeing the show and the special Veterans Day and all coming on. And how about starting the conversation, telling the viewers some about your experience? Because not only did you serve, but your father did before you.
Sure. And David, thanks again for having me once again. Veterans Day is a very special time, not just for our country, but for the individual veterans here in the Commonwealth. My dad, he did serve in the Army for 30 years. And I took that tradition and I think improved it and went to the Air Force, but that's another story.
Yes.
So I spent a few years in the Air Force, was fortunate enough to go to flight training in the Air Force. Spent some time flying aboard the B-1 bomber, had a chance to serve our country overseas in the Gulf, and then proceeded to leave active service like many veterans do, transition into what we call the real world, and eventually came to this position here. And that's a really good thing for me to have had that experience, because my job as commissioner is to look out for those veterans who are making that transition at whatever stage, whether it be after 5 years or 30 years, to make sure that Virginia is a welcoming place for those veterans and make sure they know they're needed, the services are here for them, and indeed the Commonwealth is here for them as well.
During that time that you were serving, you were part of the time in Iraq?
Correct.
Yeah. And I'm sure that you had some unique experiences, not one necessarily to talk about.
Well, it was a blessing. I mean, I served in Iraq in 1998, so it was quite a while back. But as you know, we've been in these wars in that region for several years, and with President Obama's recent announcement with respect to Afghanistan, we'll be there a little while longer. But it all goes back to my ultimate point, which is we have a lot of veterans in this country who have served. Indeed, Virginia has not only one of the largest veteran populations, but as a percentage of that large 800,000 veteran population, a large percentage of that population are actually veterans of war. Upwards of 80% of the population, of the veteran population, are war veterans. It's a large number, so we have to be ready in Virginia. And thanks for the governor's input and support for our veterans, and Secretary John Harvey's constant advocacy, we're going to be ready for those veterans when they come back home.
Well, bring our viewers up to date about where you've been, what's been happening in different facets of the work that's done in your department.
Absolutely. It's been an exciting 1 year. I've been commissioner since October of last year, so just over a year now. And again, thanks to the governor's assistance and guidance and direction, this agency has really stepped up to the plate to help veterans. One key area that we've done a lot is in the area of benefit services. And what do I mean by that? At the beginning of my tenure, we had 23 offices across the Commonwealth, various locations that provided veterans the opportunity to come and get one-on-one help with their applications to the VA for federal benefits, pension compensation, and other benefits. In the past year, we've expanded that number of offices from 23 to 26. Indeed, just a couple weeks ago, I was really happy to be at our new location in Petersburg, right in downtown, walk-in service. We're about to open a new office in the Fredericksburg area, and we're constantly looking for other areas that we can open. But particularly in our benefits area, we've had market improvement, not just in terms of new offices, but in terms of new employees able to help facilitate this claims process with the VA. As all of us know, and I've heard, the federal VA has had some issues with respect to customer service and getting claims processed. The Commonwealth has taken it upon itself to spend its own money, state money, to help veterans navigate that complex process so they can get the claims and the payments and compensation that they deserve from the VA. And I'm happy that in the past year we've really expanded that service.
You know that Virginia values veterans, the 3 V's in
Yes.
there, that certainly is a way of demonstrating how much we value veterans. There's another facet of it that some employers might not know about that was enacted. Tell them
Sure.
Tell them what's available for employers who will step up and employ veterans.
Absolutely. Well, the Virginia Values Veterans Program is a great program. It's been in existence since June of 2012, and indeed been a very successful program. Let me tell you briefly how successful it's been. Since June of 2012, we've encouraged over 340 companies to become Virginia Values Veterans Certified. Those 340 companies have pledged more than 15,000 veterans jobs. They've actually given or granted 11,000 jobs have actually been realized through that program. Very successful. But here's the piece that some companies need to understand and know, is that beyond merely being a participant in the Virginia Values Veterans Program, teaching the Commonwealth best practices and us reciprocating, teaching them best practices as well, the Commonwealth has decided to give a financial incentive to V3 companies. The V3 employment grant. Essentially what it is, boiled down to its essentials, is if you are a V3 company, 300 employees or less, and you hire and retain a veteran for at least 1 year, you can apply to the Commonwealth of Virginia for a $1,000 grant for each veteran so hired and retained, up to a total of 10 veterans in your company. So hypothetically, you can apply for up to $10,000 worth of grants from the Commonwealth as a V3 company because you've hired and retained that veteran, which is so important to the new Virginia economy.
Another one of the programs with the staff and that you all conduct is a Wounded Warrior program, because we hear so much in the media. We know from knowing individuals personally that there are all kinds of wounds that veterans come home with. Some of them you can see, others you can't see. So what's going on in that Wounded Warriors program?
Well, first, there's been a name change. It's a relatively recent name change. This past October 1st, we have changed the name of that program from the Virginia Wounded Warrior Program to the Virginia Veteran and Family Support Program. Kind of really lays out exactly what we do under that umbrella. We support the veteran and the family that supports the veteran, because as you know, David, we cannot treat the veteran's issues with the veteran alone.
Right.
He has a support network that has to be brought along and to support that veteran. So the biggest news under that umbrella is the name change. The services are the same, and indeed we anticipate expanding those services from care coordination and support of those with PTSD and TBI and other reentry issues to really concentrate, and here's a new piece, on the caregivers. Many veterans or soon-to-be veterans who have gone to war and have come back to a situation where they cannot take care of themselves. And oftentimes that duty falls upon the family, either immediate family or parents or grandparents indeed. Those people don't get a lot of help sometimes. The federal government tries to support, the state of Virginia tries to support, but we can do better. One new aspect of the Virginia Veteran and Family Support expansion is going to be helping those caregivers, providing them in-depth training, hands-on training of how to do their job as caregivers and to support them along their lifetime journey of helping this veteran for the rest of that veteran's life.
Will some of that necessary funding come from the federal government, or is that all Virginia stepping up to do
Well,
it?
here's a great thing. We recently received a grant from the Rosalind Carter Institute, a grant totaling $200,000. And what will that do? That'll fund 2.5 new employees for 3 years and allow those employees to go out and provide that in-depth 4 to 6 month training to these caregivers. So right now it's all grant funded, and we intend to demonstrate to the Rosalind Carter Institute that we can do it, and of course continue that grant in the future.
Oh, that is excellent. I was on your website. I see it quite often, and we're going to put the address up so people can find it. It's a very easy one for them to see and to remember. And there was something on there about donation.
Yes.
And it's great to have foundations that you can get to step up. But until I was on your website, I don't know that it really I was fully aware that individuals who might just want to contribute and could really, as they go in a couple of clicks, they can specify, individuals who want to give can specify what program they want it to go for.
Absolutely, and it's called our Veteran Services Foundation. It is a separate entity under the Commonwealth, but does provide direct support to my agency. So you can go to either the Veteran Services Foundation website itself or click through www.dvs.virginia.gov, which is my website, and land there, and it tells you myriad ways that you can contribute and where that money goes. And I can tell you every single dollar goes to direct services of veterans. Doesn't pay for infrastructure, doesn't pay for care and feeding of my employees. It goes straight to services. It's a fantastic way to support the Commonwealth's veterans.
Yeah, well, I think that we're glad that we can help publicize that and hope that people will, around Veterans Day and at other times of the year, that they'll recognize that that's one of the places where they can give. Absolutely. And they can see where their dollars are going to provide services
Yes.
that are needed. Well, some of the long-term services that are provided in the Commonwealth are in the care centers.
Yes.
And Virginia has been blessed by having 2, and the numbers are about to expand. So
yes, good news. Well, a little bit of history first. We do have 2 care centers, one located right here in Richmond, a 200-bed facility, and one 240-bed facility in Roanoke. But Virginia, given our large veteran population of 800,000 veterans, relatively speaking, we're kind of behind as far as the number of care centers we have as a state, just by comparison. The state of Louisiana has 300,000 veterans. They have 5 care centers, many more beds than we do, but we have a larger veteran population. So there's a bit of good news. Thankfully, the governor and the General Assembly have worked together this past General Assembly session, have allocated some bond space, if you will, to build 2 new facilities in Virginia. One's going to be built in Northern Virginia, and one will be built in the Hampton Roads region. Anticipated schedule here is to name where those 2 places will be by May 1st of 2016, break ground in October of 2017, and to actually be fully up and operational by October of 2019. Great news, because we've been waiting to do this for a long time. We've been waiting on the federal VA for funds. It hasn't come. So the Commonwealth has stepped up and said, we are going to build these facilities in a way that we can go back to the VA to apply for recompense, but we're going to build them now because the need is now. We can't wait anymore. And I really give great credit to our General Assembly partners and the governor for making this happen. Extremely
creative way to do it.
Yes.
Because the wait has been long.
Yes, nearly a decade.
Yeah, it has been long, because if anyone who's involved would know, and they can check it out on the legislative services, it has been, as you said, a decade since the General Assembly approved going forward.
Yes.
And then I guess after the approval, you have to get on a list.
Correct.
But still, one would have hoped that would have moved along much faster.
Yes,
but-
and it's not going to move any much more fast because, of course, all federal agencies are under budget pressures, and the VA is also under budget pressures. Just by example, there are currently 53 projects on that list you mentioned, with over $400 million worth of ask. The VA only has $80 million to service that $400 million worth of ask. So that means more than 2/3 of those projects aren't going to see the light of day for funding for several years, including ours. Again, the Commonwealth has stepped forward and said we're going to do it now, and it's the right thing to do for our veterans.
Oh, Virginia has creatively used bonds for state parks,
Yes.
for higher education, for a variety of ways. So it's highly commendable, as you said, to the General Assembly, to the governor, and everyone to work this out to do it for these two very important care centers.
Indeed.
It is. Well, Virginia War Memorial. We were talking a little bit before about the show about something that's going to be on Virginia Currents.
Correct.
About someone who's a volunteer there who was a World War II veteran. But tell our viewers about this very unique facility that's right here in the city of Richmond.
Absolutely. Fantastic facility. I think it's on the level of a Smithsonian type facility as far as its quality and what it has to offer. The Virginia War Memorial has been around since 1954, and it recognizes the ultimate sacrifice paid by Virginia's veterans. Over 12,000 names are memorialized at the memorial, starting back at World War II and going forward to today's wars. And we're looking to expand that space, quite frankly. We're looking to open a new wing in the near future at the War Memorial to commemorate appropriately those Virginians who have paid the ultimate sacrifice in the global war on terror. And that's coming soon. There will be a ribbon cutting on December 17th. The governor will be there, members of the money committees, Secretary John Harvey, the Secretary of Veterans and Defense Affairs, and others. I'm going to be there to cut the ribbon on what will be a new expansion to what is already a fantastic Virginia War Memorial. A very unique location across the entire country as far as what it has to offer. Not a museum, a memorial for those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice.
So December 17th.
December
So
17th.
people may be wanting to be there for that, and that day has a certain ring to it. That may be the day the governor introduces his budget to the
Yes.
Joint Money Committee.
It is. It's a very important day.
So all those half the legislature will be here
Yes.
on that particular day, that morning, and so it sounds like a big day here at the Capitol, and then a big day over on Belvedere
That's correct.
at the Virginia War Memorial. Oh, what else is happening? Where are you going? What's going to be new as you push on forward into 2016 beyond what you've already mentioned?
Right. Well, going back to benefits, we're going to continue the growth that we have there to support what will be a new influx of veterans into the state. And I keep going back to benefits because oftentimes when a veteran looks for services in Virginia, the first thing they think of is a benefit that can be accrued to that veteran. And the first point of entry is our benefits offices. So we're looking for more places, more ways to expand our services. We're looking right now for possible new locations. I did mention the new location at Fredericksburg that will be opening in December of this year. And then we're looking for even more partnerships across the Commonwealth. One potential partnership is with William & Mary, the Puller Clinic there at William & Mary, looking for ways we can team with them in the benefit space to provide appeals services to veterans. Once their claim goes up, and if it's rejected for any reason, we want to help on that appeals process. So we're looking for more and more ways to help veterans in the benefit space. Because as you know, Virginia is one of only 2 states in the nation projected to have a percentage increase in population of veterans over the next 5 years. We're going to have more veterans, and they're going to have more needs, and we have to be ready for them.
We do this because it's the right thing to do,
Yes.
but at the same time, there's a tremendous economic benefit to the Commonwealth that these veterans get the services they need.
Absolutely. And let me just give you an example. In fiscal year 2014, the claims that were filed with the VA by Virginia veterans, the return and compensation and pension payments from the VA, $2.3 billion came back into the pockets of Virginia veterans as a result of those claims that were paid from the VA to Virginia veterans. Fiscal year 2015, an increase in that number, $2.7 billion came back into the pockets of veterans in Virginia as a result of the claims that were filed and granted and awarded from the VA. That's money in the pockets of the veteran, yes, untaxed, most of it, but it's cash flow into the Virginia economy. Benefits accrue not just to the veterans, but to the Commonwealth as a whole.
Again, looking forward, what about the veterans and family support efforts?
Yes.
How will that be perhaps expanding or changing as you
Sure.
move on into 16, 17?
So I already alluded earlier about this new grant that we got from the Rosalind Carter Institute. And what we're going to do is take that grant and actually implement it starting fairly soon. We're in the development stage right now of curricula and training people getting ready to administer the grant. So what does that mean for Virginia? The Hampton Roads region is going to be the first place where we actually start receiving families to get caregiver services and caregiver training. That will happen in December of this year. The next region of Virginia to receive expanded and enhanced caregiver training will be in Northern Virginia. We anticipate those services to start in the spring of next year. So we're harping on caregivers because that is a need nationwide, but also in Virginia, given the large percentage, as I say, of wartime veterans in Virginia, and many of those veterans come home with debilitating injuries and need to be helped. So the caregiver services, they're going to be administered to through the Virginia Veterans and Family Support service line is going to be instrumental to helping those veterans and their families.
Would I be right in supposing that the reason for this and the reason for that training is that the type care that's needed can be somewhat unique to the veteran population compared
Absolutely.
with caregiving to general population?
Absolutely. Not only do you have a veteran who literally may have to be picked up and carried from one room to the next, or taken from one appointment to the next, but you're also dealing with, as you mentioned earlier, the unseen wounds, the psychological impacts, not just on the veteran, but those wounds also impact the entire family. And also, most importantly, not only were we helping the veteran and their family, to your point about being a little bit different, but there are many resources available to veterans that are not available to non-veterans. And those families need to be able to navigate all those resources. And that's a key aspect of this new caregiver program, helping the veteran and their family understand where the help is, where the resources are, federal and state. So I'm very excited that we're going to start that Hampton Roads first, and then Northern Virginia, and then expand beyond that once we get up and running.
You'd mentioned earlier about the care centers, and I think you'd indicated that sometime in 16 there might even be some locations announced then.
Yes.
Because I guess right now people know that Hampton Roads, Northern Virginia, but,
Yes.
but not more specific than that.
Right. We're currently going through the evaluative process of determining where exactly the locations will be. And that process will be done in April of next year, hence the May 1 announcement of exactly where these will be. And I can tell you the 5 locations that are currently being considered. In the Hampton Roads region, it's the city of Hampton and the city of Virginia Beach. These are 2 localities who have actually submitted an application package to be considered. In Northern Virginia, it's Fauquier County, Stafford, and Prince William. Those 3 localities have also submitted their proffer for the care centers to be located there. So we're currently going through the process to determine where that will be. And then by May 1, we'll determine Northern Virginia, Hampton Roads, where it will be.
Here around Veterans Day, our viewers will be interested to know that right at 30 members of the General Assembly out of the 140 are veterans. The program now is being seen by Virginians right after we've had an election, and my prediction is there may even be more veterans as they start counting them up in mid-November because of the number of veterans running, both parties, all regions of the Commonwealth, seeking to give back in public service.
Well, this is a great trend. You see it on the national stage as Gulf War and later war veterans have come back and decided to continue to serve. And thankfully that you see the same dynamic here in the Commonwealth. We need that perspective. and let's be frank, as far as in the political realm, 1 out of every 10 persons in Virginia is a veteran, a full 10%. So it's good to have a veteran step up to the plate and say, I want to serve in a new capacity in the legislature or in the executive, such as I do as an agency head, to be part of the process and to bring forth that intimate knowledge of what it means to be in a military family or actually in the military to help our Commonwealth serve that vital population.
Commissioner Newby, thank you so much for being on This Week in Richmond.
Thank you.
And thank you for all of your service.
Thank you, David.
This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Dignity Memorial, caring for our communities with a network of funeral homes and cemeteries in Virginia and throughout North America. More information about Dignity Memorial's providers is online at dignitymemorial.com.
Alpha Natural Resources, a leader in mine safety and an environmental steward.
The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community. For jobs, the economy, and public health, Virginia Hospitals, our lifeline.
The Virginia Education Association, because a good education is good for everybody.
Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.